how to sell links and why you need to. And I think one of the top points I want to make here is that this is a general discussion, general presentation that I think can be a lot more dialed in depending on the type of business and type of client. But I wanted to keep it sort of central and not go into too much detail. That's something I'm more than happy to do, kind of more on a one-on-one basis if anybody ever wants to book time with me or just speak with anybody at Loganix. But in general, for link building, we're going to kind of cover some of the key points we want to focus on as far as selling links and what you need to emphasize and think about. So I'm going to use my notes here. One thing also I mentioned to Travis earlier is that we're going to share this overall deck with you guys after. And I think part of the meat and potatoes basically actually are coming from my notes. So it's going to be a good piece to be able to read after if you want as well. Another piece real quick. Yes, I do have long hair, if anybody else noticed that. I tend to speak kind of quickly. So if I do blow through anything, you will hopefully have the notes then as of tomorrow. And then I think if we just go step by step, if anybody has any questions, or Travis, if you want to jump in, that's cool. And then like you said, later on, we can also have a longer question and answer. So without further ado, a bit about me. Yeah, I don't look that way anymore. Basically, that's I think a 12-year-old wedding picture that turned into a caricature, basically. CEO of Loganix. I'll talk a little bit about me. I do have that 13-year background, maybe 14 years in SEO, loosely. Link building has been a big part of that for, I don't know, at least 10 years. So it's something that I have done personally. I've outsourced, we've built teams on, we've tried and tested all different types of link building. And then we brought that into Loganix about 8 years ago and started really scaling and figuring out what worked, how to reproduce it, and using kind of tried and true methods and selling that to our clients. So if I go a bit more into who we are, like Travis was saying, we're an SEO agency, but I think what makes us somewhat unique, and actually I'm going to use the next slide here, is that we have an online dashboard, basically where you can create an account and go in and order stuff. So we basically are a back end for SEO teams. You could be an in-house team, you can be an agency, you can be a consultant, you can also just be the direct business itself, the SMB. You create an account. If you can see over here on the left, we sell link building, citation related work, SEO services, content, pay-per-click. But in this capacity, you're not paying anybody for the fluff. There's no management, hourly services, none of that. We just basically cut right into the deliverables that you would need to put together a successful campaign. Part of that is actually the link building. And so we've broken down links into productized services in a way where we can maintain quality, but also scale. And so I think one of the things about link building is that there's a huge wide swath of different types of links, different types of providers. You can get really super high quality links that aren't really scalable and take a lot of effort to get and achieve. Or you can a lot of times get really crappy links, Fiverr, other providers, although there is some good stuff on Fiverr. And what we wanted to do was figure out through testing and experience what works, what moves the needle, what we can basically replicate and scale, and also what's not going to be dangerous or a liability of the client, because that is potentially an issue. So kind of long story short, we did productize link building. We do have a number of different types in here. I think mainly the two different types that I'm going to talk about today or reference are guest posting and niche edits, both of which are Loganix products, but again, just kind of different types of links. To put us all on the same page, guest posting basically means that we're going to find a publisher, a website, when we have a client order, or just if we want to build links in general, and we're going to, that's going to be based on relevance to the client site and certain metrics that we're looking for. And actually we're doing this in scale. So there's going to maybe be, let's say 100 sites that we potentially would want to publish on. They have blogs, they meet our criteria. We're going to pitch them, hey, we like your blog. Are you interested in some free content? We'd like to write a post for you. Out of the 100, maybe 2 or 3 say yes. We go back, write the content, insert the link into the content, or links, whatever type of natural configuration we have there. Come back to the publisher and get that post to go live. When the posts go live, you get the link from that site to the client site. So that's basically a guest post. Niche edits, on the other hand, are existing content. So same type of blog post, it's just that you're basically going into an existing blog post on a site, getting the site owner, or publisher, contributor, who it might be, to modify the content a little bit and add actually a link in. The cool thing with niche edits is that same thing, metrics we're looking at, minimum standards, and also they have existing traffic. So a guest post is a brand new post, a niche edit is existing post, which part of the difference there is that it's already been indexed, it already has traffic not only on the site, but actually a lot of times in that individual post. And as I'm going to talk about a little bit later, traffic, organic traffic, is one of the pieces that we sort of hang our hat on as far as quality goes in determining a publisher or a quality link. So a niche edit, you kind of just jump right, cut to the chase basically, and get that kind of higher quality link. So that's a bit about us. Let's go to the next. Here we go. All right. So yeah, the importance and place of links as part of an SEO service plan. Links matter, period. This is true. There is a lot of caveat to it, and there's a lot of it depends, which is one of our favorite phrases, as we all know, in SEO. Basically, you can throw up content, informational content, blog posts, long form content, and a lot of times rank without links. And that's cool. That's great that we don't necessarily need links. Once you start getting into commercial SERPs and you're trying to rank product pages, surface pages, category pages, your home page, whether that's in local SERPs, your e-commerce, your service-based, whatever it might be, you basically need link building. Same thing is true with, or links. Same thing is true with more competitive informational type SERPs. And basically it's just saturation up at the top of the search results. Blog posts, content strategy, you can build a lot of long tail in there. Again, you don't necessarily need links. You start trying to go for your quote unquote money keywords and related. Everybody else there is in part doing the same thing you are. They're getting links, they're building links, and they've probably been there for a while. And so it's just a stronger signal in commercial SERPs. So we've basically found that it's a requirement. When I think about this myself, I think it's kind of funny because links have been around for a long time, 12, 13, 14 years. And it used to be that you could go into, I don't know if any of you harken back to this day, but you could go into Wikidfire, Warrior Forum, or different communities and buy all different types of links. And I was saying to my partner last night, isn't it funny that you used to buy links and actually buy the keyword result? You'd say, I want to rank for this keyword, that keyword, the other keyword. And it wasn't really about the quality of the link. It was, they'd go and the link provider would do their job and you'd start to rank for whatever keyword it was. So they've been around in different forms and they've always been important. That type of link building isn't really used or shouldn't be used anymore, but links have always served that important point. So again, links matter, period. And then the blog post versus service and category and product pages. The other part about link building that's important is have site authority for rankings. So links push equity. They're basically votes from one site to another and from an algorithmic standpoint. And the more you have, the better you tend to rank. Again, lots of kind of caveats and relevance and type of site and link velocity and a lot of other pieces there. But in general, the more we have, the better we tend to rank. With site authority, you're not just getting individual links to a specific page that might then help that page rank for the targeted keywords it's optimized for, or its kind of relevant long tail, but you're also building equity to the site. And I think most of us are familiar with DR, DA, domain rating or domain authority. And the more authority you build, the better different pages on your site are going to rank, basically, right? So it's not just links to an individual page. it's going to be links to the site in general. So if I'm acquiring links in whatever form to my blog post, to my service pages or product pages, to my homepage, I'm slowly going to build my DRDA up higher and higher. And that's going to, I always screw up this expression, but the whatever it is, rising waters float all boats, or whatever it actually is, that's going to help every page on the site, whether it's existing or new. You throw up a new blog post on a DR60 site, that blog post is going to rank faster and better, basically, for more terms than that same blog post on a DR20 site. So links as a form of equity, building the overall authority of a particular website, super important. In fact, a lot of times we'll have clients coming in, and part of the recommendation after they tell us what they want is, yes, we can build links to some of these service pages or product pages, but additionally, we want to have a DR play. We basically want to build site authority, and there's different types that we would use for that type of thing. And then the next point, links as anchor of results and recurring revenue. Now, some might argue with this, and again, this is another place where you could say it depends, but link building, after you kind of make it through the initial work for on-site, so if you get a project in and you need to do on-site strategy, you're doing all the basic stuff, the research, the on-page titles, page meta descriptions, header tags, technical speed, content strategy, everything else that you kind of build out and say, all right, I'm going to make all T's crossed and I's dotted. After you do that as a project, it can be difficult to find ongoing on-page SEO to basically do to the extent where you would have a large amount of work. Now, the exceptions might be big projects, big sites, millions of pages, there's always something to do. But on a smaller website relatively, or a medium website, once you've done that initial work, there's a lot less to be done in that on-page capacity. So one of the cool things with links is that not only does it actually produce results, it's a lever that you can pull to build higher rankings, but it's a good source of recurring revenue for those of you who are actually agencies or consultants actually going to sell links there. So if I have, let's say, a project where I do $5,000 worth of on-page upfront, whether it takes a month or two or whatever it is, and the client is willing and able to pay then $5,000 monthly, I'm going to run out of one-time work that I can basically do in that $5,000 retainer. And links is a great home potentially to secure that. And I guess it doesn't have to be revenue. It could also just be, hey, I'm an internal guy and I have budget. Push it towards links in some form because it's a value add, and quite honestly, it's expensive. Cart, then the horse, and that basically means on-site dialed in, content strategy addressed, and then links as the engine. So I kind of said this, but just to say it a little bit differently, and I think I say it a few different times during the presentation, we can push links to any site, and when I say we, I mean all of us collectively building links, no matter what status it's in, but they're going to have a much better impact if the on-page is actually dialed in. So those basics of SEO, strategy based on research, on-page signals and targeting, content on those individual pages, potentially a separate content strategy, blogging, for example, if it's applicable. With all those things being done, links are a great, and I'll say necessary piece of it. If they're not done and you don't actually have a lot of that dialed in and we're building links, they're just going to be watered down. The results won't necessarily work as well. So it's something that we want to make sure that we have in order, basically, before we really push too much link building. So how to sell and convey the necessity of link building to your client's manager or boss. I think one of the challenges that we have in getting buy-in for link building, budget, or just selling it in general, is that it's not trusted in a certain sense, and maybe in a large sense, depends who you are and who you're selling it to. But like a lot of SEO, there's mistrust around it. So a big part of getting buy-in to begin with is kind of establishing trust. And that's like SEO, right? People are skeptical and or have been burned. I hear that a lot of times on calls. I've been burned X number of times by, is this going to work? And where are you getting them from? And so there's a lot of skepticism. I think that's one of the big challenges. One of the things that we try to do, and I'll do literally on a call or subsequently, speaking with a lead or a prospect about links, is trying to turn it into their vernacular. What are links to them? Now, we do use specifics. We do go into quality and kind of give a more formulaic way of describing and selling and pitching the links and trying to get the buy-in there. And I think I go into some details here in a bit. But basically, we want to turn it into what's going to be important to them. And that's going to vary. So this isn't like amazingly novel ideas. I think the same thing applies, whether it's SEO, link building, pay-per-click, any type of marketing. But you want to speak in general and say, hey, cause and effect, we're going to basically work on link building, which should push ranking improvements to these pages. Here's these pages that rank for these keywords. Here's the amount of volume for those keywords, the search volume. And as a result, you'll get a bigger piece of that, which will then turn into traffic. Traffic hits your site. What are you interested in? You're interested in a sale, a sign up, a phone call, whatever it might be. So we need to translate it into something that's not just SEO speak, but something that's tangible for them. Although there's a flip side of that down the road on a different slide. So again, understanding what they care about early on, and it's going to totally vary. We have people that come in and they know what links do, and they are very specifically caring about the metrics around or the type of link. So we have to focus in on what it is that they're telling us. Hey, I understand link building. I've been burned before. I want this exact type of link. I want this quantity. I want the content to reflect this or that. And so hearing what it is that they need or they want, whether they're super educated and familiar with link building or totally novice and don't know a thing, translate it into their language and then make that valuable. And then link building should be seen as a means to achieve a metric that matters to the client or the kind of stakeholder and makes a difference. One of the things here is that we do need to establish a benchmark and show them kind of where they are at, or yourself, where you are at with your link building on a particular page and how you might need to get somewhere in order to rank better. So I think I go into an example in a bit, but if you're looking at a particular URL and you want that to rank better for X keywords and it has Y number of links, you're going to need to demonstrate where they're actually at, maybe where the competition is at, and how for trying to rank for the same type of keywords, and what that gap is. So you can turn where a client or your own website is at by doing the analysis around link building, and then where they want to be, and show that sort of discrepancy. And that metric literally is going to be either DRDA and the difference there, or a quantity of links. Hey, we think that it will take 10 links built to this page loosely, and you'll basically now be on the first page of Google for these particular keywords or something like that. So again, it should be a metric that matters to the client, but also then is translated into something tangible from an SEO standpoint. Another part, emphasize the long-term benefits rather than the one-off work and the short-term gains. I do get people coming through and they basically say, hey, I have 3 months and that's it. And that's okay. We can build links for just a few months. It is very not only cause and effect, but this is somewhat formulaic. There's an engineering aspect of SEO, which I personally love. And so you can predict, forecast, and actually look through, again, what the results might be and kind of how to get there, and forecast out how long it might take based on the quantity of links that you need to a particular page or domain overall. And in doing all this, it takes time. So one of the things that we want to emphasize is not just the data and the forecast and sort of how to get there, the goals and all that with link building, but this is an investment. So I was thinking this is similar to, we're doing some work on my house, and you know, if you have the end goal in mind, you're like, okay, cool, here's what this is going to actually look like. This is why we're doing this work. And then the contractor comes that day or whatever and starts tearing a wall down or something. You don't jump in and say, why, what are you doing? Why does this look this way? Because you're paying them to get to the end result. You don't jump in right away and expect those results once they start tearing the wall down. You're paying them to do the work to get to the end result. And I think it's similar with link building, is that you have to put everything in context, and that each step is valuable piece and really an investment in whatever that end part is. So it's an investment in your site to build the links, even if you don't see the results yet, basically. Reasonable costs for links. This is a bit all over the place. We sell link building, so I'm going to speak a bit to us. I'll say that in general, you're looking at a range from around the $100 a link all the way up to $1,000 a link. You could go on a forum, or like I said earlier, Fiverr, and probably find links for $10. You could also go on the opposite end and probably find links for $5,000. The cost to me is less important than the quality. And in fact, just to have as a quick story, we have an agency that orders from us, and they had a budget per client, and they just kind of came in and allocated, I forget what it was exactly, I want to say $500 a month per client. And so they were like, okay, cool, what's the best bang for my buck? And they spent, I think they got like 2 or 3 links or something per client, had it all set, and month over month over month. And then they booked a call. I had never spoken with them. They booked a call, and I chatted with them, and they're like, well, we're not moving the needle as much as fast as we, what's going on here? So I looked at their orders and looked at the link profile and everything else. They were ordering a decent quality link, but it wasn't really the right link for them. And basically, long story short, they went from getting 2 or 3 links a month to getting 1. And that 1 link was a higher quality link that they were getting than those 2 or 3, which seems self-evident, for the same price. And so we tend to hang our hat again more on the right links, the right quality. Now that might be a slower path for that example client I just gave to get to where they want to go, but that one more quality and impactful link is actually going to be far better than the 2 or 3 lower quality, so to speak, or lower metric type links. So it totally depends. Budget kind of depends on your budget, the type of URLs you're targeting, how competitive the SERPs are. But I would generally say that you're probably in the $200 to $500 per link range. There's some that are higher, there's some that are lower. And I would just kind of do your due diligence and look around at the metrics and kind of the quality there in that way. Link cost, separate or included, and how to budget for links. We generally say that after you do on page, links tend to eat up maybe 70 to 80% of total monthly link or SEO spend. As I was saying before, links are a great way to add in a recurring value. So to an ongoing SEO plan. So after that one-time work is done, we see a lot of times that basically the majority of the SEO budget goes into links. So I'd say about 70 to 80%. And then the link cost separate or include an SEO cost. I always like to keep links separate as a separate deliverable. If it's just cleaner, it's the result. Yes, they work in tandem to on-page and content, but really making sure that links are separate is a great way to kind of continue that budget on and say, hey, this is making a difference. This is how much it costs, basically. And then selling links with data versus comparison and ego. We're gonna, I think, get into this in the next couple of slides here, but one method and that we always go to is that comparison method, like I said before, where you're going to look at what the competition is doing, what their link profiles are like, how many links they have, what the SERPs actually looks like for where you want to build links to, to get those results, and try to build out a path and show client or stakeholder how to get there, why you're not there, and why the other guys who are there, and what you need in order to get there. And that you can tell it's sort of a data-driven story. The other way, very simply put, is ego. A lot of times people want to be on page one. They want to be in a certain position for a certain result. And we can basically use ego in a sense to say, hey, if you want to be here, this is what it's going to take. And therefore, this is what it's going to cost. Along those lines, a little bit in terms of educating the buyer, I think one piece that I'm going to blow through some of these, but first thing would be setting expectations. So I'm going to go bottom right here. What links actually do, and just getting clear with the buyer or the buy-in person about what we're doing and getting on the same page. And part of that too, like I mentioned, the key is transparency. This isn't smoke and mirrors. I think there's an aspect we don't want to share. We don't want to give too much detail, because then they're going to hold us accountable for things that are not important necessarily, or basically micromanaged. But 100%, we want to be transparent and clear with what we're doing, how we're doing it, and what to expect. So the first part of that with expectations, one question we get a lot, or misunderstanding, and I would be pretty sure that most of you know this, but maybe not everyone, referral traffic versus PR versus equity in terms of what link building and links actually do. We get people coming in and saying, after they purchased a link, a few weeks later, after it's live or whatever, hey, I'm not getting traffic from the link. I'm like, yeah, that's not how it works. You don't get traffic from links. I mean, you can, but this is, again, an equity play. We're acquiring links from quality websites in order to get those votes, in order to get that page to rank higher, and or the DRDA to be bigger, to grow. You can get traffic through social links. You can get traffic through quote unquote PR links, where you have like an agency or a PR campaign. You're trying to go viral, you're trying to have an interest piece. It goes up on New York Times or somewhere, and people come through that link and come to your site. Cool. That's not scalable, really. That's not like link building. That's not the goal that we're after here. So no traffic. That's not an expectation. It is an equity play, though. The other part I said about link building takes time to show noticeable results. They need to buy into that. We'll generally say that you should be looking at a minimum of 3 months, assuming that you're actually building for 3 months, and then you could stop. And that's a fair place to stop and take a step back, assuming that you've done your due diligence in the competition of the SERPs, how many links you have, the right pages and everything else. 3 months is a fair place to turn around, look back. What did we do? Where are we at? Are we at least moving? Are we moving in the right direction? I think in general, I mean, we're link builders, so of course I'm going to say this, but you want links ongoing. 6 months is a lot more, I'd say, well, a lot better. And then just kind of ongoing link building. But that taking time piece is key. A lot of times I'll use I'll describe link building in the sense where you're taking salt and trying to put salt into water. And you don't see it. So I'm building links. I'm not necessarily seeing it. Put salt in the water. At a certain point, you can see the salt in the water because it crystallizes. And link building is a little bit the same. Yes, it's formulaic. Yes, we can use data, but it does take time. You have to have a little bit of faith there, which is why, again, we hang our hats on the quality piece. And then educating clients about the components of. We have mentioned we have the on page, basically. So again, they need to understand the on page has to be dialed in, that you can't just throw links at a site. We do have people coming in and saying, okay, I read that link building is important. I just built my site. You know, I have no links, no rankings, and I want to spend $3,000 a month on links. And we're like, no. You need to age the site a little bit. You need to have rankings organically. The site needs to be targeting properly, et cetera. And then you need to decide what's natural. Can we start to build links to the homepage? Can we do maybe press releases in a sense to start getting some diversified anchor text out there? So there is that context there. Goals, I think, are also pretty important in terms of being clear and setting expectations. it's a combination. I was saying before the piece about getting all the buy-in and speaking in the stakeholder or the prospects language. This is a place actually where we want to flip around a little bit and not necessarily be held accountable for their metrics. So yes, you rank higher, you get more traffic, you should get more signups, you should get more sales, you should get more calls. That's the whole reason we're doing this. But this, at the end of the day, is a link building campaign. And so we're accountable for the traffic related pieces and the quality and the links themselves. So we want to say, this is the specific number of links that we're going to build overall or per month or on average or whatever. As a result, these are the keywords, if we build these, that we're trying to rank higher for. This is where you rank now. This is where we think you would get to roughly in the search based on that number of links. So kind of having agreeable KPIs, traffic, rankings improvements, and then the links themselves. I think past that starts getting a little bit into CRO and other parts of the site that, while totally related, shouldn't be deliverables or necessarily the initial measurement of link building. I think also it's important to basically stay in touch and set timeframes where you say launch. I was saying before, 3 months might work, 6 months definitely works, but to basically be in front of whoever it is that you need to be in front of consistently. Because again, there's a little bit of a gray area or kind of maybe lack of trust sometimes with SEO. And we want to say that we're not doing anything wrong or bad. There's no tricks here. This is what we're doing. We're building high quality links. Expect this number at this time. Here they are. So we want to be in front, clear, upfront, proactive maybe with how we deliver and report on links. So with reporting, I think another part, like I just said, is actually setting the periods for review. We use Data Studio, Looker Studio now to report on links. So we pipe in like G4 data, conversions, all that other stuff, and then we actually put live links a lot of times. We use just Google Sheets too there, where you basically every month the links that go live will show like the sites that we're trying to pitch to, basically the prospects, the publisher, and the expected live date. And when the link actually goes live, it pops up in the sheet. And so the client can see who they're going to get, when to expect it, and then when it actually goes live. But it's still good to be saying at whatever period, hey, here's your live links, point it out, having a discussion around it. So, and the other part about, again, making yourself available, people don't trust. So kind of putting yourself more up in the forefront, I think is important. We've noticed that the more proactive you are about actually talking about link building and what's going on, the more receptive people are to continuing to do it. So it's not just the results, but like anything else, you're available, you're accountable, and you're visible. Traffic growth, and then the actual numbers of links and keyword rankings, again, with whatever that period is, we want to basically say, hey, we've noticed that you've improved in rankings from here to there. And I'll show a slide here in a second of that. And we want to point these things out. We want to highlight the results as we go, not just the goals. They want to see like, we've moved that boulder. It may not have moved to the destination across the yard, but it's moved a couple feet. Hey, check it out. I think that's partly what we're trying to show here. So as a result, just kind of cause and effect. This is just the Ahrefs screenshot. I think, and this works really well in a lot of different ways, whether you're doing it live on a call, you're doing it in retrospect after you've built. But let's say link building starts to happen around here. The blue line here are referring domains, so basically acquired links, and they start to grow really here at the beginning of the year. Well, what else starts to grow here? Well, traffic, and it's pretty, at the very least, there's a correlation. I'm going to say there's causation, and we say this from quite a bit of experience. Whoops. And similarly, you actually the keyword profile. So here's page 1 rankings, but in positions 4 through 10. And then as the traffic starts to pop, they're getting the other way around. They're getting top 3 position rankings as well. So links grow, traffic and keywords grow. Does it always happen like this? Is it magical? Yes, it's magical. Does it always happen like this? No. We sometimes, we have to go back to the drawing board, but it happens a lot. 9 times out of 10, maybe 8 times out of 10, high quality links, right number, right type, page, better rankings. And so clients love this. And it's, there's a reason why. Here's just the keywords for that respective screenshot we just were looking at a second ago. Fintech related keywords, not crazy competitive, but national, decently competitive. And in that time, going from like position 10 to position 1, position 12 to position 4, 12 to 6, etc. So lots of improvement. And again, everything else being equal on page, quality of content, etc. This is that big lever, the link building here. So link strategy, what types of links to use and in what way? I think this is sort of the meat and potatoes of the link building campaign. Everything up to here has been sort of talking and context and sales. I mean that with whoever it is that you're speaking to. Quality, I'm going to define basically as relevance and metrics. Relevance basically is how related is the publisher that you're getting a link from that site to your site or your page or your client's page or whatever. And there's a spectrum here, but in general, am I getting a link from, if I'm an attorney, am I getting it from a legal site or something that relates to kind of what I'm doing, or is it related to, I think my go-to example is how to build a chicken coop site. Well, relevance obviously would tell us that we want the link from the prior examples and not from the chicken coop site. There's some caveats there too, but in general, relevance is super, super big. I will say though that SEOs, in my opinion, place too heavy of an emphasis on everything needing to be 100% relevant. There are not only levels of relevance, but there's times when relevance, in my opinion, takes a backseat to metrics. So metrics then, for us, are basically DRDA of the site that you're getting a link from. So what is the domain rating of the site you're getting a link from? But it's a bunch of other stuff too for us. It's going to be not only the link profile of that actual publisher, but it's going to be the types of links, the link velocity, and sort of the equity that's hitting that particular site. We want to make sure that those are of a certain standard and certain quality. The big one that I mentioned earlier on is traffic and organic rankings. That's huge. You can game DR links and a few other things so that somebody's like, oh, I got a link from a DR 65 site. Cool, it's got no rankings and traffic. I don't want that link. So the rankings and traffic are a great indicator in general of the quality and value of that site. And we've seen it time and time again that sites that have traffic and have rankings and make it through algorithmic updates, if you have links from them, you too make it through algorithm updates. If those sites tank because maybe they don't have they're gaming something or Google doesn't like them for whatever reason during an update, and you have links from them, you don't necessarily tank in a punitive way, but you're going to lose the link value that you had from those sites. So we want to find sites that have strong traffic, strong link metrics, and not only that, but they're actually potentially growing in both ways. So you kind of look for growth in links and traffic from a particular site. Again, there's a lot more details around metrics and relevancy, particularly in metrics. Some of those details are on our site as far as how we go through and vet the process there. One other thing I'll say there too with metrics and relevance is that one of the caveats is that I think that metrics, well, so as an example, we have a product called Brand Links, and it's DR 70+ links. It's mostly on SaaS tech, marketing type sites. And so we'll have clients come in and say, I don't want links from those type of sites. It's not relevant to mine. I'm CBD, I'm women's clothing or whatever. Well, what we'll do a lot of times is put relevance into the context of the article. And so the content we've pitched to that DR 70 plus site who's super pissy and particular about the type of content, hey, it's got to be 3,000 plus words, you got to write really, really well, got to be researched, blah, blah, blah. We can't go in there and say, oh, link to our CBD client in whatever way. We have to write it and say, all right, we're going to write a post on the top 10 best practices for CRO in Q2 of 2023. And then in there, we're going to cite different examples of some of those CRO best practices. Well, a natural way that we can link to that CBD client or an attorney or something like that might be to look at our client site and see how they're doing CRO, and then come back and say, oh, here's one example in our post for CRO of how to best do conversion rate optimization. And then we can cite our CBD or our attorney client in that post. So in that way, it becomes less about the relevance on a domain level, and in the sense, even on a page level, but you make up for it by, in a sense, by getting the DR 70 plus, you're getting a pretty awesome equity link. So my point is, yes, relevance, but there's sometimes when higher metrics are great and we want to go after them and we can get them like that. How many you need and SERP analysis. This is again another area, and I haven't been able to show my sticker yet, but you guys can see my sticker. So when we get quotes, we get people, again, on a lot of different calls, and people come in and they say, how many do I need? How much it's going to cost? And I turn around and I give some information to our sales team and our SEOs. Long story short, it's kind of what I've alluded to or referenced this whole time. Basically, if you're using a tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush or whatever, and you're looking at link profiles, you're looking at whatever the SERPs are that you're trying to target, and you're saying, okay, if the DRs are loosely equal, first example, let's say that you have a DR 40 site and everybody on page 1 is close to DR 40, but you're not on page 1. Then you can kind of look at their profile and say, first of all, how many links do they have? Okay, they have 12 links, or maybe the big guy has 12 links pointing at the specific result, and you have 2. Well, I mean, you need 10. It's basically that simple. On the flip side, or a little bit deeper, you need to go into their link profiles and look at the specific types of links they have. Are the links, those 10 links that they have that you do not, in quantity, what are the DRDAs of those? Are they guest posting links? Do they look more like niche edits? Are they super relevant? Are they less relevant? Are they just directory links? So analyzing the link profile itself, but you're starting with that quantity piece, assuming that the DRDA is similar. And then you can kind of forecast out and say, all right, per page, this is the discrepancy. This is how many links I am behind those who are on the first page. These are the types of links I need. So you could turn around and then say, I basically need 10 over here, I need 2 over here, I need 6 over there, whatever it might be. And you get a total number of links. And then in a sense, you could even turn it into a budget and be like, all right, I need 50 DR 30 links, let's say, over time to build these different pages to get up onto the first page. And I know if I go to Loganix, cough, or wherever, those cost whatever, $300. And so now I know I'm going to spend $15,000 this year loosely. So you can figure out what it's going to be loosely based on the number of links and then the provider that you're using, or if you're doing it yourself. The only other way I was going to give an example here is that if the DRs don't match, if you're going up against sites, if you're DR 30 and they're DR 60, and you have that 10 link gap, they have 12, you have 2. You kind of need to make up the DR gap as a function of links. So I'd first start with doubling whatever the number is. So again, if you're 10 links short and they're DR 50 or 60 and you're DR 30, you probably need to go 20 links minimum to kind of compete or make up for that discrepancy and the larger DR gap. These are estimates. Again, it's approximate. I showed my "it depends" sticker just to buy myself a little bit of an out. But again, it works pretty well with looking at link profiles, the variance in quantity, the variance in DRDA, and then getting a pretty good idea of what you need to be able to get there. Metrics versus relevance, we more or less talked about that. Both work, really. Err with relevance for 70–80%, sometimes relevance and metrics. Relevance from sites that have good metrics, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But then that 20–30%, if you have some kick-ass sites that aren't necessarily as relevant, but the metrics are good, 100% go for those. And then mitigating and avoiding penalties and other issues. I think the important part here is that if you've done loosely everything that I've talked about here and really focused on both metrics, relevance, and again, the metrics piece is the organic traffic. I'd say that's kind of the safety part. You basically should be fine. Manual penalties, while they do occur, are rare. We don't really ever see them. So I wouldn't worry about that from a link building standpoint. I would worry about things like don't over optimize your anchor text when you're building links. We don't want to use keywords in there, really. Let the links be contextual and natural. That's a good way to avoid penalties. Another is don't use all bad neighborhood stuff. Don't use PBNs, of course. And just build high quality links and match what's actually going on in Google. I think the last thing I'll say is that we monitor the traffic of the sites that we get links from. So after we've built a link to a client's site, actually for all our clients, we're monitoring those publishers. And if they drop in traffic after an algorithm update or something, we remove them as partners. We're not going to use them ever. Well, we're not going to use them again because they've dropped in that actual traffic. If you have a link profile, again, where you have some links from sites that lost traffic from an algorithmic update, chances are you're going to drop in the rankings. Again, not because it's a penalty, but now those links that counted and were helping you don't anymore because they lost that traffic, basically. So I would say also monitoring your links that you have to see not only are they live, but that the sites they're coming from haven't dropped is another good way to get an idea of what's going on. So if you did see drops in rankings, check that out first or proactively monitor it, like I just mentioned. There's a little bit more around penalties, but I think that's not anything that we are too concerned with. Just a little bit of, it's not humble brag, so like cocky brag, I guess it would be. I do get a lot of calls from people coming from other agencies, other link building agencies, who said, yeah, I went with them first and now I'm here because I dropped in the last update. And quite honestly, we don't get a lot of our own clients saying, hey, your links made me drop. And I can say, oh, look how great we are. But to me, it's not that. To me, a lot of this is really common sense. If you follow metrics, relevance, and again, the traffic piece of that, and build high quality links, definitely penalties are something that you really wouldn't be worried about. And drops are something that if they occurred should be only, I don't know, 10% of your link profile. Whereas if you're not paying attention to those things and 50 to 60, 70% of your link profile is made up of sites that are a little bit on the edge there about quality as far as traffic and stuff goes, if they drop in an update, you're going to drop big time. So quality, quality, quality. All right, that's a lot of talking. Thank you. The Loganix.com/Aaron, you can just throw that in your browser at any point and it pulls up my calendar and you can book time. If you want to just chat links, I'm happy to continue the discussion. I'm also happy to speak specifically about your site and what we see. We can throw up hrefs together and kind of look at what's there, and I can actually go through some of what I talked about specifically with your site. And then also for this, anybody who is here or is watching this after, we're throwing up a one-time usage coupon through June. Like I said, we're an online dashboard. So basically at checkout, you could use the code ClearScope and get 20% off any particular order. Oh, one thing my partner wanted me to mention, we're looking for an SEO. We're looking for SEO help. So if you know anyone, you could send them our way. I think that's about it.
Awesome. Awesome. Great job, Aaron. We do have a couple questions, and if anyone else has more questions, drop them into the Q&A. But to kind of kick it off, what are some of your favorite ways for securing backlinks if someone didn't want to use Loganix?
Sure. Well, I mean, so I'm going to keep on going to that it depends thing. I'd say that, the two ways that come to mind would be swapping and guest posting. So the problem with guest posting is we all get those emails in our inbox like, excuse me, sir, I read your blog, it's great. Would you be interested if I wrote a post, blah, blah, blah. And that's what we do at scale. So I'm kind of making fun of us. But you have to be able to do it in a way at scale where you will get results. Because with us, we only get it maybe, like I said, 2 to 3 out of 100. But guest posting works, and it's content that you control to an extent, even though it's going on another site. And if you vetted the proper publisher, like again, traffic, metrics, relevance, everything else, you can add value to their site, which is only going to help you, and you're going to get a link out of it. So I think tried and true, and why not just say guest posting? The other one that I like a lot, and this involves a bit more work, is swapping. And swapping could be done both with niche edits, like we talked about earlier, or with guest posting. Or basically, same thing, you need to be able to vet sites, reach out. But in this case, instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to write content, you might actually say, hey, could you modify your content? But in return, you're going to swap and give them a link back. It's not like old school where, what is that called? Link exchange, where you're like, I'm going to link to your site and you link to my site. It's more where you start to develop sort of a network of different publishers, and you understand that if I can get this guy to swap, then I can get him a link from this other guy over here. And if you scale that out where you have, I don't know, 10 partners, 20 different partners, more than that, you can start to get them to kind of swap with each other, so to speak. But you're not the moderator, but you're the manager of those swaps. None of them connect to one another. They don't speak with one another. You're just sort of organizing who links to who, knowing that this guy is this type of site and this gal over here is that type of site. And what you can do in that swapping is start to get client links in there. So it's a great way to get super high-end links. It's also quite a bit of work. So I'd say, you didn't ask what was the easiest way. You said, what are my favorite ways? And I'd say those.
Awesome. Yeah, that's perfect. And occasionally you'll see some SEOs talk about like a ratio of backlink types. Do you have one as far as like including brand names, images, naked URLs? Is there something you should watch out for or kind of track?
For anchor text?
Yeah.
Or no. So I mean, yes and no. For anchor text, again, that was like one of my stories from 10 or 12 years ago, and everybody used to be like, hey, I'm not going to pay for the number of links, I'm going to pay for the number of keywords I want to rank for. And at that time it was all anchor text, because there was no penguin or panda, there was no updates, no penalties around any of that. You could just basically manipulate the shit out of Google by using anchor text. I've personally swung to the complete opposite end of that spectrum, where I don't recommend using any keyword anchor text whatsoever. We personally kind of say, hey, you should be doing your optimization on the page itself. That's where all the keyword targeting, the signals should come from, and let the links kind of speak for themselves contextually. Naked, like you said, brand name. I don't kind of care what the anchor text percentages are of those things. It's more just do it naturally, whatever makes sense. We have people coming in saying, make this a naked URL. Well, in the middle of a blog post, you can't just go, okay, https www. They don't want to see that with words, right? So I'm not trying to craft percentages of anchor text as much. Now, one little exception to that is sometimes if we want to push the needle and experiment a little bit, and you have a supernatural anchor text portfolio, we might use a keyword anchor. So we might say, oh, okay, if it's for our link building page and we have a supernatural anchor text percentage, I might say, hey, throw in link building services. So we might throw one or two in there to see if we're just not getting the nudge that we want and we think the profile is cool, then we might start using it. But as a method, like proactively, we don't use keyword anchors.
Nice. Awesome. And this might be the last question, but do you have a formula for calculating the kind of the worth of a backlink for, say, a site that's wanting to get backlinks and trying to make a decision on which site to follow to get that backlink? Do you have a way of kind of calculating the worth of that for a site?
Well, the two things that come to mind, so like the value from a monetary perspective, we've organized our products and we say, DR this to that, this much traffic costs this much. So we've organized value into a cost, which is a little bit different. As far as the value from if I'm reaching out and trying to do my own link building or just assessing the link building and what the impact would be, yes and no. So again, there's no standalone formula that you can just apply anywhere. Our formulas are a bit more about what's in the search results, and like that process I was describing before, where you're looking at the number of links that you have for the page or site that you want to rank versus who else is there in those SERPs and how many links they have, as well as the DR and then the discrepancies. And you're trying to make those things up again. The DR is equal, then you can more or less look at their link profiles, try to build the same types of links overall in the same quantity, and 9 times out of 10, you end up in the same spot. If the DR is not equal, then you need to build more, maybe double the amount there. It's hard to consistently have a formula to measure the value of links. Just as an aside, kind of, there are sometimes when relevance, I kind of downplayed some of relevance, when relevance is super awesome, and relevance can actually trump metrics. And there's not really any formula for that. It kind of comes with experience, where if you got an awesome link from a site that has low metrics, but it's super, super, super relevant and in a great post, that might be worth sometimes twice the number of high quality relevant metric links that you would normally get. So unfortunately, no, I don't have a magic formula. It really is a lot of sort of qualitative review and testing.
Super cool. I think people will find that very helpful. That kind of wraps up all the questions we have. Again, thank you for your time today. And again, open up your calendar and the coupon code for Loganix as well. But any last parting words before we give everyone their day back?
No, yeah. What I will say is practice and action. I think for the longest time, so much SEO is about talking, and whoever has to share this on Twitter or say that here or that. Totally. But what actually matters in our experience is practice and actually doing the thing, right? So with link building, you got to, whether you're paying somebody to do it or you're doing yourself, you got to put the work in, do it, fail, do it again, succeed. It's got to be about action.
Now, before we wrap this up, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe so you don't miss out on more great content from the industry's best SEOs, content marketers, and content strategists. The ClearScope webinar series happens every week and helps SEO content creators of all skill levels advance their knowledge. Hope to see you. Tune in next time.